Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 155, where we take a look at and discuss the song Second Nature. I got a great panel here. We've got Ryan, Rob, Paul, and Tal. So this is going to be fun. So, you know what? Let's just get right into it. So before we start looking at the lyrics, I want to talk about the intro. And that intro to me, it's really kind of, well, I'm gonna back up. The song seems kind of one of the more mellow songs on the album. It's got a kind of couple little heavier parts here and there, but overall seems one of the mellow songs. And how it starts out with the piano and the synth part, behind the piano, I think is kind of unique. I mean, there's other songs that start with piano, but the way this one starts off, it's pretty unique for Rush. And it just fits this album perfectly, like the sound, the instrumentation, everything fits it perfectly. What do you guys think about how they start this guy off?
Yeah,
Do we
Alice is
know
kind
who
of
did the piano, by the way? Was it Getty? Does anybody know?
Yes,
I
he was
assume
taking
it
lessons.
probably-
I assume it's
I think
him.
so.
Yeah.
He was. He was
Yeah.
taking lessons at the time.
Mhm.
Does
Yeah.
seem like it's synth is the lead in this one. Everybody else has their part. Definitely, you can hear
Right.
the wall playing. Neil's got his thing going. Alex, it's as much as say Open Secrets had individual things it was commented on before. This everything's in harmony, and I again I don't think that's an accident. It's a very harmonious song. Even the mix is harmonious. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really like the mood that the synth sort of depicts at the very start. Like it's gonna be a little more on the ballad side. Kind of wish they wrote more songs like that, and especially after Hold Your Fire, I really missed the upfront synth a lot. That's such a unique sound, and I know people really we're done with the 80s stuff. Like they did it for 4 albums already. Come on, move on. But I would not have minded if the rest of their catalog sounded like that because it's so deep and grand and atmospheric, And I think kind of like the beginning of Lock and Key as well. Like I just think like
Yeah.
it's such a unique sound with both Power Windows and Hold Your Fire, where the synth is kind of instead of being kind of an extra, the keyboard being an extra instrument on the side, it's used to embellish the whole sound of like of the album and song. I really like that a lot. So I think perfect start to the song right here. It gets you hooked.
Yeah.
I love this song a lot.
Yeah. No, it's good. I agree. It gets me hooked in it too. It's awesome. All right. Okay, so let's hit the lyrics. So we start out with the lyrics: a memo to a higher office, an open letter. Sorry, a memo to a higher office, open letter to the powers that be, to a god, a king, a head of state, a captain of industry, to the movers and the shakers. Can't everybody see? It ought to be second nature. I mean, the places where we live. Let's talk about this sensibly. We're not insensitive. I know progress has no patience, but something's got to give. So, Rob, do you wanna start us off there?
Yeah, sure. This always gave me the impression of like a graduation ceremony in a way, like the way it kind of opens up with the piano, and he's sort of maybe he's graduating to a different point of view where maybe he was impatient with a few things and he's trying to sort of work that out a little bit. And just a little bit of joking in there too. It'll be second nature. At least the places where we live, it seems like a little bit of a pun in a way, or some kind of inside joke. I don't know, but I think he was trying to, I guess, make sense of whatever his situation is, and I guess more of the lyrics after that kind of reveal a bit more about what he was going after. That's my thought.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love the
Anybody?
line progress has no patience. I mean, that's such a scene with, I mean, of course this song's, kind of about environment and other things, but that can be said for anything. It can be said with relationships. It can be said with jobs. It can be said
Yep.
with sports, owners or general managers. I mean, Jimmy, I know you're kind of a sports guy, but like if you don't have patience with your rookies or whatever, and it can be said about anything. And it's such a powerful line, and the alliteration, both P's. But it's just such a powerful, profound line, just that alone.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like it kind of seems, and maybe this is the world we live in now, that like, there's not a lot of patience in general,
Right.
I think, back in 87 when this was released, there was probably a lot more patience, but now there certainly seems like there is none. So yeah, very well said. Very well said. All right. Okay, so moving on through the lyrics here. I know you're different, I'm the same. We're both too busy to be taking the blame. I'd like some changes, but you don't have the time. We can't go on thinking it's a victimless crime. No one is blameless, but we're all without shame. We fight the fire while we're feeding the flames. Tal, do you want to start that guy?
Yeah, so I call this kind of like the first chorus. This is where the beat drops in. And I must say, kind of like you just said with the first verse, I feel like these lyrics age so well in terms of they age like fine wine in terms of the society we live in now.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like nobody wants to take the blame for their actions. Not nobody, but it's like based on all the crazy things that are going on in the world. I'd like some changes, but you don't have the time. I think I really like that line a lot. I like some changes, but you don't have the time. Because if you want to make a change, it doesn't just happen instantly, right? We have to put time and effort to really see progress. Kind of like Ryan said, I know progress has no patience. That kind of connects with that. If you want to see the world improving, you have to sometimes wait. And like I said, you can't go on thinking it's a victimless crime. It doesn't just happen by itself as well. So that's another important thing. Kind of like I said this with Open Secrets. This song doesn't really describe a specific storyline, and it's more up to the listener's interpretation of what Neil is actually talking about here. Although it seems pretty clear that it's just, I think whether it's about the world in general or the environment, just something about improving our society. And I made this keen observation with Open Secrets that I'd like to say again. Getty kind of avoids beat one in this song like the plague. If you listen to the whole thing, I don't think he ever sings beat one.
Wow.
I'm really wondering if this is it like on purpose. Like I don't know if it's a conscious thing or not. I think it has to be a conscious thing. It's almost like the music keeps leading and Getty's the lyrics are sort of dragging with the music, and I think it's an interesting effect when you think about it, because I feel like most songs these days, or even rock songs in general, you have not all the time, but a lot of time you have, you start the verse and the chorus on beat one, like it's like a snap, like the lyric, it drives the song forward. And here you always have that empty beat one, which I think is really interesting. And it's, I think also in like, I'm trying to think if in like Prime Mover, Lock and Key, Mission, I think there's been a pattern in this album where Getty avoids beat one. So I guess the more I say it, the less surprising it is. But try listening to this album and count how many times there are vocals on beat one. That's just something I noticed.
It's funny when you mentioned that. I had never thought of it. So while you were talking about it, if you saw me kind of looking up in the air, I was counting, right? And I was just singing it to myself, thinking, oh yeah, that's right. That comes in on beat three. Yeah, that's like the upbeat of two. Yeah, I never realized that. I'm gonna have to listen to it in a different perspective now. Just kind of check that out. That's interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Kind of second nature that they do that kind of thing,
Yeah, it's happening.
I just want to add that. Does this song not seem like a more wiser and more mature version of A Pharaoh of the Kings?
Or closer to the heart. I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, same album, right? It's like in A Pharaoh of the Kings, it's let's go replace the leader, right? But in this song, it's let's negotiate with the leader. It's them. It's Neil growing up. It's literally 10 years later, right? It's maturation of Neil, and his thinking.
Yeah.
The leaders
we get virtuality.
We have to.
What'd you say? Virtuality?
And then we get virtuality 9 years later. Yeah. Maturing back down. Not just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I actually like
that's,
that song. But it's about second nature.
yeah, I do too. Yeah, that's true. This is definitely as these, as anybody like ages and is more experienced with their craft that tend to evolve. And I think there's kind of what I think of the natural evolvement, of the band, of them individually and collectively as a band, kind of led us to eventually to Hold Your Fire, which I think they produced a fantastic album. But that's just
So
me.
more mature.
I love it. Yeah.
Them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. All right. So continuing on here. Folks have got to make choices, and choices got to have voices. Folks are basically decent, conventional wisdom would say. Well, we read about the exceptions in the papers every day. It ought to be second nature, at least that's what I feel. Now I lay me down in dreamland. I know perfect's not for real. I thought we might get closer, but I'm ready to make a deal. Well, Paul, what do you think there?
So this one jumped out at me because I think of, the papers. I decided to go back and check the headlines from 86 and 87 to see where everybody's head was at.
Wow.
And outside of the movers and the shakers thing, being very, very, that might be the most 80s lyric they've ever written. Some of the headlines were Hands Across America, the Iran-Contra affair, Canada and US free trade agreement.
Yeah.
But it was always more of a sense of us. And then with the line, where are we at here? Read about the exceptions in the paper every day, the exceptions to all this. The song is clearly a call, like we've said, a call to act. We need to improve and all that. But now when you think about it through today's eyes, that's why I like the fact that this is timeless. Between social media, or if you ask any first responder or a medical professional these days, as far as the exceptions, folks are basically decent. We do all, for the most part, agree on that. But those loud voices that are so extreme, whatever, who want to be heard, we all want to be heard. And these days we do have that with social media. But the whole folks are decent thing, it's where I keep going back to with this is, while true, if you ask people who by profession or by circumstance or environment see people in their worst situations all the time, it's easy to get jaded. And even back then in 86 and 87 and up to now, when you think about that, okay, we can accept it when we say it, but the more you think about it, it's like, okay, I'd like to think that folks are basically decent, that I'd like to. So that's what grabbed me about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. And I think, today there's so much, what am I trying to say? There's so much, many more ways. Well, there's that, but there's a lot more ways to get your voice out there and heard by the masses today than there was like back in 86 and 87. Like, just us as people, us who, grew up in that era, right? There was, you're not going to be on the radio, right? You're not going to have like a public forum unless you created that forum. Now with that social media, you have that forum based on how many people want to pay attention to you, right? But yeah, it's very, very different now than it was. But I think, what you're saying is spot on for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I like to think folks are basically decent too, but sometimes people can be wrong. You know how it is. I'd like to. Oh yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's keep going. Man, it's interesting perspective and comments. I love it. All right. Today is different and tomorrow the same. It's hard to take the world the way that it came. Too many rapids keep us sweeping along. Too many captains keep on steering us wrong. It's hard to take the heat. It's hard to lay blame. To fight the fire while we're feeding the flames. So Ryan, you haven't gone yet. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, the four lines here that stick out to me are too many rapids keep us sweeping along, too many captains keep on steering us wrong, not because of the really awesome rhyming, but because of the fact, so like when rapids are, so I just pull this up, define rapid, okay, Google. Google it on the Google machine. A fast flowing and turbulent part of the course of a river, right? It's a lot like when I think of, I know I kind of just discussed this, but like rapids are fast paced, flowing. It's kind of like that's what we do as humans. It's like the same shit, different day, right? It's like it's the same thing over and over and over again, and it's fast paced. But then also the lyric here, too many captains keep on steering us wrong. So the captain could be, the god, the king, or the head of state, or whatever, or your boss, or your mother, or whatever, or your parents. It could be anybody that is in any position of power or authority or leadership or whatever. Keep on steering us wrong. There are those exceptions that keep on steering us wrong. And then the other thing that kind of stuck out to me, which I think this is just a huge coincidence, but I wanted to bring it up. The lyric, to fight the fire while we're feeding the flames. Okay, in 1984, Ride the Lightning, Metallica, Fight Fire with Fire. Rush then comes back in 1987 with To Fight the Fire while we're feeding the flames. Perhaps they kind of took a little bit from that, maybe took influence from that, maybe, at least with the phrase. But then also, Now I Lay Me Down in Dreamland, which is also in this song. In 1991, Metallica writes Enter Sandman. Now I lay me down to sleep, pray to my soul the Lord to take, or whatever the lyric is, right?
Yeah.
Kirk Hammett was always very influenced by Alex Lifeson too. So there's a little bit of a connection there. And that always, I think this is a huge coincidence, but it always kind of stuck with me that there was kind of that connection.
I mean, well, I know that, like, the lyric "Now I Lay Me Down in Dreamland." I read in the Rush Song by Song book that that Neil got that from a prayer that he said as a child, right? And that's from the Lord's Prayer, which all of us who were probably raised that way did that too, right?
Yeah,
which is that, and I'm sure that Metallica, got their inspiration from that as well. I would guess, right? So. Who knows? I mean, it'd be interesting to see if that was if they got it from each other, or they just happened to use the same source right around the same time.
I think it's the latter, but it would always just kind of, as a fan of both bands, it just kind of always stuck out to me.
Yeah. And I love the lyrics there, especially like the too many captains keep on steering us wrong. Everybody seems to have not everybody, but a lot of people have their own agenda, and they're trying to push things that way. And that may or may not be, the way for everybody. It's not that it's right or wrong. I don't want to say that. Right.
Yeah.
And he almost goes into a passive voice after he says those lines about too many captains. That's okay. Well, you know what? In the meantime, while we're wishing, or while we're dreaming, my utopia that I'm hoping if we all start agreeing or working together. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Well, then after that, they go into this musical interlude. So I've called this thing a musical interlude. I have not called it a solo because it's not a solo. I didn't call it a bridge because I didn't think it was quite a bridge of a song, right? But, to me, they're playing this structure over a verse is what they're doing, to me. And it's not a solo in the traditional sense, for sure. Right, there's a little bit more enhancement from the instruments, but not tons. It doesn't change a lot, but that mood and the texture that it has, still fits the song perfectly, of course, like everything they've done, right? And I think it really ties, the beginning part with all the lyrics to, what's going to come right after this. You guys have any thoughts on this little interlude thing?
It kind of feels like a bridge because you're coming back to It Ought to Be Second Nature, and then that drum fill that Neil does to bring you back in. So it has a flavoring of the bridge, but I don't know if I would call it specifically a bridge.
It's hard to say.
Interbridge, I don't know.
Heresy does the same thing later in Roll the Bones. I noticed Heresy does almost the exact same thing.
Oh,
a little instrumental interlude with that ingenue style guitar arpeggio.
Another wonderful song, Ingenue. Yes.
I think I signed up for that one, so I'll be talking about it in a few minutes.
And then,
I think,
No, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
what were
ahead.
you gonna say?
No, I was
Yeah, I was
going
gonna
to
say,
hit the lyrics after. So go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, I didn't have much. I was just gonna say, yeah, I think it really, really effectively builds up like that final big grand chorus. And restating the now I lay me down in dreamland, no perfect's not for real, like just like reminding the audience how important, like the listeners, how important those lines really are. You kind of
Right.
need, like you almost need something to build it up because of how strong those thoughts are. And I think it does a really great job. You don't always need a guitar
Right.
solo in a rock song. I think this does an equally as effective job,
Yeah.
if not even more. No offense,
Yeah.
Alex. I love the synth. I love the
Yeah.
synth. I really do.
I
Anyway,
do
you can
too.
take it away with the last one.
Yeah, I like that too. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I think if they tried to put a guitar solo in this song, I think they would have been trying to put some square peg in a round hole kind of thing, right? It wouldn't fit right. Maybe it's because we're used to hearing it this way. I don't know, right? But
That
I
harmony.
think it's
kind of-
great as it is. Yeah, yeah, great harmonies on that too, for sure. So, well, the lyrics right after that. Darn it. Hold on. Let me get to them. Right. So it ought to be second nature. At least that's what I feel. Now I'd lay me down and dream. I know perfect's not for real, which I think they've repeated all of those. So they've mentioned all those lyrics are repeated, from earlier. And then he says, I thought we might get closer. And that's the last lyric. And that's interesting. And something else I read about this, about the song was that Neil was talking about like a relationship, like a compromise on a relationship, that one side is almost never going to win out. You're going to have some kind of compromise. And I think that could go with like most everything, right? And I think that line there, I thought we might get closer. Well, maybe we should agree a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like the last thought to leave them with. I thought we might get closer, but can we? It's like a little bit of a
Exactly.
cliffhanger.
It's a
I
cliffhanger,
thought-
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
add, so in Roadshow, Neil says the song articulates a moderating of his environmental goals over time. The lyric says the lyrics he says included the realization that even if I could not accept compromise, I would have to accept limitation. I know perfect's not for real. I thought we might get closer, but I'm ready to make a deal. So it's kind of like he understands that, he may never get his way and the opposing side may never get their way, but
Exactly.
we should come together. And yeah, and okay, he claims it was written about the environment, but it fits for any subject matter,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much anything.
For the most part. But that last line there, if my mouse would scroll up. Thanks, Apple. I thought we might get closer. So it's like in his mind, he thought that deal that they're coming to, you'd actually get closer than perhaps, like he thinks in his mind that this side would give more than they probably did, and this side should have given more than they probably did, and we're still kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum in a way.
Yeah.
But I do think this whole thing comes back to the album theme of instinct. That's what this whole album is kind of themed around and centered around, and I think it is, at least I think what Neil is saying is that it should be instinctive for humans to think this way. It should be instinctive for humans to want to come to an agreement, want to better the planet, want to better anything, based on the subject matter. You're going to apply to anything, but it should be second nature to want to better themselves or their relationships or their jobs or the environment or whatever it is the subject matter is. So
yeah, very true. Yeah, I think so too.
That whole I'd
Yeah.
like to. And
I never thought of the title second nature being like sort of tied together with the theme of instinct, but they kind of mean the same thing. So that's an interesting note.
it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's an instinctive. I mean, it's said in Open Secrets. Maybe some things are instinctive, but there's one thing
Right.
you do.
What do you do?
Right.
so
Yeah.
deeper
It's-
into the theme of instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then, after that, they they get into the outro of the song, and it's, still kind of the same, very much the same theme and, mood and texture. And I love how it just kind of like, it gets kind of like, it's almost like it's getting a little bit more mellow, and then they end it. There's no fade out, right? It ends. And I think it's great that it ends instead of like fading out. I think fade out would have been kind of strange on this one. I think it's great.
Yeah, it sounds like they had a
It's
solution
fantastic.
musically, and then the beginning part was that sort of, you cast on the mood in the beginning, but at the end, it seems like it feels like
Yeah.
something resolved musically too, So
Right.
the restraint and the patience in the arrangement was a big part of the song as well, musically.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think they faded too many songs. Like I find it refreshing when they actually end the song and we hear the full ending. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. It's funny because sometimes on the songs that fade, you turn up the radio or the record or whatever you're listening to like really, really, really loud, right?
To just hear
They're
that last little-
fading, and then they do end somehow, Rich, which is like faded out in the mix. So if you're listening at regular volume, you'll never hear it. But if you crank it up all the way, you'll sometimes hear it. Not
Yeah, a
always.
good example is
Sometimes.
Mystic Rhythms. Actually, if you crank Mystic Rhythms all the way, you do hear the ending. Like you hear when they stop playing, which is kind of cool.
Lock
Yeah.
and key.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah, another great tune. Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. Well,
I got a question.
Yeah,
What's
go
everyone's
ahead.
favorite? What's everyone's favorite live version of this song?
The one in my head.
The one that they didn't play live.
Where's the Steel Tour? I like that one.
Yeah. This
I
was,
Did a good
I
job
would
on
like
that
to heard it with an actual piano as opposed to the synth. Nothing
Mhm.
against the synth. This was the time, but I think musically, because in getting ready for this, I listened to various covers that highlight various instruments, and
Yeah.
I thought to myself, like, it'd be great to hear that lead synth line on a piano and
Acoustic
see how the
piano.
song would have sounded that way.
Mhm.
yeah.
Getty had a grand piano doing Second Nature and then into Available Light or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
Oh
that-
my god!
Absolutely. That would be awesome.
That'd be a good
It
episode.
actually would have
Yeah.
been cool if they did like an acoustic stripped down
So we
version,
could,
almost like Resist, but with
Yeah.
piano. That would have
There's
been
a future
So-
episode, the orchestral rush. What play?
Oh,
what
yeah,
set list
yeah.
would be?
That would be fun. All right. Well, do you guys have any final comments that you want to say about the tune?
Listen to it with an open mind. Just
Yeah.
because it's not hemispheres or just because it's not, 2112 or moving pictures, listen to it with an open mind because it's still this is Neil at his lyric writing peak, in my opinion. And it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
Rush
fantastic.
at maybe not their creative peak, but it's certainly showing their evolution. And
Yeah.
I'd say for additional reading, I took a lot of liberal arts classes. In sociology, this actual topic is covered. There's a sociologist named C. Wright Mills, and if Neil never read it, might be stunned. It was a sociological imagination, basically a personal issue that becomes a social or public, not problem, but issue that must be addressed. And the book is Sociological Imagination. Fascinating way of, if you want
Yeah.
change, this is the way to do it. Individual problem turns into public issue that we all can address, and how do we change it? So that's
Yeah.
my thought on this.
Cool. That's cool. Awesome. Roth, do you have anything you want to mention? Or
Like, I'm okay.
you can choose not to mention anything. You still have your choice.
I had fun.
If you choose not to decide, it's still a good choice.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
for
I have
sure.
maybe a
What do you
little
think, Tom?
note, I guess.
Yeah, go
Maybe a
for it.
little question. I believe Neil uses Simmons electronic kit for this song because I don't hear any of the of his toms. Do you have any proof about that?
So
I know you're
yeah,
a drummer as well, right, Jim? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I
Um,
am. This is my Bible for
Yes.
or what did Neil
Big
use on that kit? This is mine for that. So if we go to where the heck Hold Your Fire is, which is just taking me like 3.5 years to find it. Always when I want to find it quickly, it's going to take me 3.5 years to find it. There we go.
While you're looking, say while you're looking, or did you find it?
I got it. So he did he use the same? I think he did use here, Hold Your Fire tour. Yes, so he definitely used Simmons electronic drums on this. He's got SDS 5s on this one. Because he changed his electronic kits throughout, right? He started out with the Simmons, he moved to D drum.
He played D drum, yeah. Then
first he had D drum, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. And I have to go listen to it again, but I think you're right that it's all the Simmons toms and not and not any acoustic toms. This one, yeah,
they're all triggered sampled sounds and not his normal toms.
Yeah,
I wonder if there's a conscious choice behind that. It just sounds a little more mellow in general because those toms are very booming and strong and thunderous. Maybe that's not what he wanted to go. We want to go for with this one.
That's true. That's true. He could have done that, for that reason. But that's a good point. I'm gonna go listen to it again and see. It kind of reminds me of the Van Halen album 5150, where Alex uses all of the Simmons toms. He's got Simmons tom set up, but he always has his Ludwig kick and snare and his acoustic cymbals and stuff. So it was just a different sound, which was kind of cool that it was different. Keep things.
Guys are putting me to sleep with all this drum talk.
Neil was the only one who did for this album.
Drummer nerd talk here. Sorry.
Martin Popoff's book Limelight says that Neil was the only one who did analog to digital on this album. Both Alex and Getty did straight digital. Neil went analog to digital.
Okay.
If it helps.
Cool. That's cool. That's awesome. All right. Well, because Ryan is about to snooze off, I guess we'll call it.
It's a mellow song. It calls it that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
He's going to Dreamland. Oh.
All right. Yeah.
I'm going to go to Dreamland now.
Well, thank you guys for the chat and for your insight and your thoughts. I said this was really fun, and it was great to hear your perspectives as well. I think it was a blast for me. So all you guys watching, I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and leave a comment. We'll check it out. Tell us what you think of this song, and if you like what we do, hit that like and subscribe button. And we get these things out there about once a week or so, I think. So we get a new one out there then. So to all you guys in virtual land or dreamland, wherever you happen to be right now, thanks very much. Take it easy.